here's the difficult part. My car has an automatic transmission, so there's really not a lot of room to pull this bolt out of. On the passenger side, you can maneuver it out, but on the driver's side, you actually have to take the trailing arm off the hub carrier, rotate it, and that way you can dump the bolt out. So, if you're going to be doing this replacement on an automatic transmission car, definitely get TAB tabs. TABs, an acronym for trailing arm bolt. This is hands down the strongest bolt you can buy for the DeLorean. If you're gonna, it's been said countless times, if you want the strongest tabs, get TAB tabs. And if you have an automatic transmission car, I would definitely recommend it because you don't want to ever do this process ever again. Or at least not often, because it's not an easy process. Alright, so what's nice about the TAB tabs is that the threaded end is actually tapered down a little bit. The head of the bolt is 19 millimeters. This is actually 18 millimeters. So when you go to reinsert it in the trailing arm, it doesn't have to be an exact science. You've got a little room to play with because it's a little bit narrower. The head of the bolt is not your standard hexagon, so if you try to use a 19 millimeter socket that's a hexagon shape, it's not going to work. Now, I bought this nice offset wrench from AutoZone. It's 19 millimeters and it will fit the head of the bolt. The offset is nice because there's not a whole lot of room in the frame to work with this. You've got the transmission in the way, and then you've got a little recessed area, and then you can grab onto the head of the bolt with this. So because the nut is because this end is 18 millimeters, you have to use an 18 millimeter nut. And for those of you who know what this looks like underneath the car, if you've got a manual transmission, you just torque down the head of the bolt and then you're done. Okay, I have the automatic transmission, which means there's little to no room to get a torque wrench in there and a socket. So what I'm going to be doing, and I've already done this on the passenger side, is hold the head of the bolt steady with the wrench and torque down the nut. Now, you've probably seen underneath the car there's not a whole lot of room to torque down the nut because there's fiberglass in the way, which means I have to use this next piece. This is a 11/16 torque adapter. 11/16, I don't know if it exactly matches 18 millimeters, but it's a good match. That way I can actually grab onto the nut side and I don't have to use a deep socket and then another wrench right up against the bolt. I can actually torque it from a little bit below the bolt. Now, these torque adapters change the dynamic of your torque wrench. This is a 3/8 inch drive torque wrench and a 3/8 inch torque adapter. Because this extends the torque wrench a little bit, it changes the dynamic of your torque wrench. So you have to use a formula to modify the torque setting that you're going to be using. It's actually going to be less than what's shown on the wrench. Now, the good news is I'm told that if you turn, again, if you angle the torque adapter, that's going to change things even more, but if you angle it at a perfect 90-degree angle, it will match what's indicated on your torque wrench. So it works really nice because you have little to no room to torque down the bolt, but you can still torque your bolt with the torque wrench. So that's really everything I have to show you. Again, I'm going to show you this bolt. I don't know if you can see it close up, but this is my passenger side bolt. It's definitely bent. This is after at least 27,000 miles with my car. I don't know when it started to bend, but I definitely didn't want it to break, so I'm going to be replacing it again with the TAB tab. If you can get your hands on a set of them, I think they're sold out right now. Definitely worth the investment. I'm currently replacing the bolt, and right now I'm looking down the trailing arm towards the frame. You can see that it's not connected to the frame at all. The bushing's missing, the bolt's missing, everything's missing down there. It's actually resting on some of the cables. This is the flexible brake line that allows the arm to pivot a little bit, and then it turns into a hard brake line, and it goes up all the way to the brake caliper. Right now I'm being very careful not to bend and stress this too much. You can maybe see that I pulled the bolts out of the hub carrier, so it's actually free. It's not that heavy. I can lift it up with my own hands, and I am supporting it with a jack from my other car. So I can raise and lower the jack, and I can pivot this around to get the bolt in and out. What I'm going to do is actually swing the end of the trailing arm down below the hub carrier, and I can maneuver it around so that I can get the bolt in and out down by the transmission.